just want to say good morning and happy Wednesday to all of you. And we are so grateful that you have taken your time this afternoon to join us for our speaker series as part of Energize Colorado's Women-Owned Business segment. If you've been here before, you know me. I am Sherry Mitchell. I am the owner and creator of Chef Sherry Sauces. And I've had the privilege of being involved with Energize Colorado from the very beginning, right as the pandemic hit in 2020. A group of brilliant people got together and said, how are we going to help these small businesses in Colorado weather the storm? And that's how it started. And it has just been such a pleasure to work with so many of you and serve the needs. And this is one of the things that many of you were telling us that you wanted, which was help with marketing, help with customer engagement, help with growing customer loyalty and topics. And I have the absolute pleasure of introducing you today to Mandy Gleason. She is just such a ray of inspiration for me personally. You know, I came across Replica Surfaces, which is her company that she founded. I came across them about 2 years ago as I was struggling to create worthy photos of dishes that I was creating and showcasing my bottles. And I'm researching and I'm finding all of these different backgrounds, but these ones from a company called Replica Surfaces kept standing out to me because of their quality, because of their patterns. And I took the initial jump into purchasing a handful of services and was absolutely sold. And I have nowhere near as many as other people, but I have quite a bit because seriously, Mandy, like what you offer in these services allows it to look like I'm on a beach somewhere, or hey, I'm off in the mountains looking at autumn leaves.
That's what we do.
Or, you know, I've got this Christmas snow scene behind me. It's fantastic and super easy.
Thank you.
With that being said, I am going to let Mandy introduce herself and tell you a bit about how she got into this. She had a varied background. As so many, but at one point she saw this need that people that do product marketing and just want to bring their photos to better life and make them look more professional versus having to hire a professional photographer. It allows us as our creators to do this for our businesses on a whim. And it's been amazing for so many people I know. So with that, Mandy, thank you so much for joining us today. And yes, cannot wait to hear about what gave you this idea, what prompted you to pursue it, and just all the things that are coming up in the future.
Yeah, so I'm first off so excited to be here and really happy that you asked me to be here. Like so many of us, I have pivoted multiple times, as Sherry alluded to. So I actually started off when I was 18 and 19. I was a professional Canadian television actor in kids' TV shows. I then pivoted to medical school. And it was actually when I was in my residency training to become a full radiologist. So someone who interprets medical imaging, that I met a friend who had an e-commerce company, and I was watching what he was doing, and I thought this would be a fabulous side income to invent a product, have a side income so that I wouldn't necessarily have to take the highest salaried medical job in order to pay my unbelievably high student loans that I had accrued by that point. And so it was really great because he kind of demystified this process. And so the first product I invented was going to be like an Amazon box opener. So we all get all these packages every day. My husband was always using my good kitchen knives to open them. And so I wanted to create something better than that. And I invented this box opener that didn't work. Like, it was really bad. It was my first product ever, and it was completely failed. But in the process of doing that, I had to take a professional quality product photo of it. I didn't have, I wasn't able to hire a professional photographer. I knew I'd have to create a lot of content, and I had absolutely zero background in photography, in styling. My kitchen was outdated and my lighting was bad in my apartment. And so I went online to try to find a backdrop, just like Sherry did. And what I found were ones that looked really unrealistic. They were kind of wiggly vinyl. I didn't know how I would, clip them up to make that backsplash, that upright scene. And I was seeing a lot of DIY blogs. And that's when my light bulb went off, because I went, one, I'm horrible at DIY. It's gonna look like a second grader did it. And two, like that means that there's a need. That means there are other people just like me who are product developers or food bloggers, but they're not photographers, and they need a resource like this. So I completely scrapped the thing that really wasn't working anyway, and launched Replica on Kickstarter in 2018.
Wow. So how did
That's the
you go
backstory.
about the process of developing that first model? Because Kickstarter, I
Mhm.
remember when Kickstarter was huge and so many companies were launching on there. And how did you first develop that prototype? And then how did you
Mhm.
get people to actually see this product on Kickstarter? Because even though Kickstarter is the same premise for everyone of how
Mhm.
to get the word out about our product and how do we make sure that we have it in a good enough state ready to present.
That's a great question. So, getting the original prototype ready. What I knew was that, from what I had just learned from trying to create that prototype, I did not have the monetary resources to create something that was bespoke designed. I didn't, so yeah, no monetary resources, no experience. And so I really thought, oh, hey, this backdrop thing, this is going to be low hanging fruit. This is taking, finding the right substrate material, of course, but then printing on it. It felt like it was going to be really easy and something that a novice like me could do. Now,
Right.
I've learned just how difficult it is to get those inks to cure properly, to get them the right resolution. There's so much more in it than I ever thought that there was. But at the time, it felt like something that I could create without any business experience at all. And then, when I putting it on Kickstarter, all you really have to have is that first original prototype. You don't have to have absolutely everything already established. You don't have to have everything already in your warehouse. The people who back on Kickstarter, called backers, who support you and kind of pre-order your product, they're willing to wait for a decent amount of time until you've actually produced your product. But the one thing that you absolutely, if you're considering going on Kickstarter, must do is know every single cost that's going to go into providing your product to those backers. Because I've heard horror stories, and it's not intuitive, but some people will say they'll open it up to international orders and not knowing exactly what their product is going to cost to ship to Asia. And then all of a sudden they haven't gotten the right up, they haven't sold it for enough, and they lose money on their campaign. Because once you're funded, you're legally obligated to provide that product to your backers. So knowing absolutely every cost is vital before you ever click go and launch that campaign, first of all. But then
I,
to your question, Sherry,
not,
oh,
no,
sorry, go ahead.
not to, that holds true even outside of Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who's listening on this call, I want to ask you, do you have a spreadsheet of some sort that shows you every little bit of your cost
Mm-hmm.
down? Like people will think, okay, it's going to cost me this much. I'll just speak about sauces because that's what I'm most
Sure.
familiar with. I know that
Absolutely.
this is what my dry ingredients are going to cost. I know what my wet ingredients are cost. Here's my bottle. Here's my label. Those are my
Mm-hmm.
costs. Well,
Yep.
no, because I have to remember, okay, I have to get filling for the packages that I
Exactly.
ship. I have to pay for the packages. I have to pay for the
Mm-hmm.
postage. I have to pay for any ink. I have to pay for any inks and design, gas to get from here to there, and all of these little
Mm-hmm.
things that, if, like you were saying, if we forget to incorporate into our business models, this is what it's going to cost. We have a very difficult time setting a price that will allow our business to be sustainable.
Absolutely. And I feel like there are so many products that I want to create as Replica, or that I know that other creators want to create. But when you list out all of those costs, you
Right.
cannot provide it as a small business, at least, someone who's not ordering 10,000 of something. You cannot reasonably release that product and make an adequate profit to make worth doing, and price it at a price point that would make sense for your customer as well. So yeah,
Right.
it's a great point, Sherry. I do have a spreadsheet just like that, and yeah, I would highly encourage everyone to know down to a T. And there's things you wouldn't think about too, like at your fulfillment center. If you're not shipping from your own home, if you are having it's called a 3PL, like a third party logistics company, warehouse and ship out your product when it's ordered, they have a fee for every time they touch it and put it in the box. So you need to know what that is. You need to know the fee to intake it. Not that these are bad things, but you have to know what those are, before, like Sherry said, before you can release it and price it accordingly.
Right. So you've got to Kickstarter, you've got your
Yes.
prototype ready to go.
Yep.
You've got you're ready. Did that whole process go for you? What did you do with your marketing strategy so that people would find you and say, I
Absolutely.
believe in this?
So I'm sure we've all heard of the Kickstarters that have made $500,000 or $1 million. Those are never done by people like us. Those are done by people who've done this for a third, fourth time. They probably have venture capital money behind it. They're funding an advertising campaign, like a digital ads on Facebook, on Instagram. They're funding that from money that they have from a previous project. I didn't have any of that. So I really, really leaned into an organic presence on Instagram. So I created the Replica Surfaces Instagram account about 3 months before the campaign actually launched. And we did this nice big photo shoot. And I started by sharing photos and photography tips. So going the extra mile, not just being like, hey, backdrops are coming, but being like, here's how to style. Here's start by doing this, then do this, then that, or here's a lighting tip. And so I started by providing all of this free content that was pretty simple. It's something that somebody who was a novice like myself understood enough of at the time to teach. And by doing that, I was able to get a couple hundred followers during that first 3 months. And it was enough. And there was enough of a demand for a product like this that we actually got funded in the first, I think it was hour. And then we ended up making $40,000 over the course of the campaign. So it's not the million, but it was enough to ship out the orders that we had and then buy the first round of inventory to stock at our warehouse, at our fulfillment center. So it was an amazing way to get the orders out the door, start those first customers on, I think some of them are still with us, and then be able to launch our Shopify store. So really, really leaning into content and doing it for months in advance, which is so painful because you want nothing more than to launch. Your future customers want nothing more than for you to launch, but you need to have that group ready to buy.
You do. And one of the things that I've always really loved, and I've chatted with you about this a little bit on email, is that you are so good with your customer engagement. You're one of those brands where you lean into the customers. And this is what I'm hoping people watching the show will take away from, is just another strategy that you can use to help guide our companies, because most of us as entrepreneurs feel like we're flying by the seat of our pants, right? We feel like,
same.
I don't really quite know what I'm doing here, but I'm going by gut, and
yep.
What I've watched you do has been brilliant. And for those of you that aren't as familiar with Replica Surfaces, she also has a Facebook group, and she leans into, and these are all of her customers. So if you have a product or a service that this might apply to as well, gather all of your customers and create this page where they can chat about things, about how they're using your product, how they are, different ideas for how to gift it, or whatever it might be.
Sure.
Or whatever it might be. Not only does Mandy get on there and say, hey, guess what? We're doing this limited release launch of these services. She answers people's questions that they have, and then she'll poll the people that are part of the group to say, what is it you would like to see, so that she knows ahead of time that there are going to be purchases. And to me, that's like a gold mine,
right?
Because we all, we're not content usually with what we've already created. We want to do more.
Exactly.
We just are like, oh, is this going to work? Is this really what's good? How do I figure out? And so leaning into that customer base, I think is just brilliant. So if you could share more about how you decide what to ask those people, why you go down that, what if the customers say, I really want this, but it's not sitting well with your gut? Like, what do you do? How do you make these decisions?
It's a great question. So to your point earlier about flying by the seat of your pants, that is what I do every single day. And then something works and then you stick with it. So surveying customers was one of those things. It wasn't like I had this brilliant idea that was like, let's always survey when you have a question. It was like, I tried it once and the response was fantastic. So not only do your customers now feel like they're a part of the company and in its direction, because they are, but like Sherry said, you now understand whether your idea was a good idea or not, or whether you need modifications before you spend any money on creation, on marketing, or anything like that. So Yeah, so I absolutely adore surveying your customers. I think in surveying too is a really nice way to do it, because the analytics that are provided to you, you can search by the answers to all of your questions. It'll print out a lovely spreadsheet for you. And so it's a great way to get to accumulate data rather than maybe just asking in, say, a Facebook post, hey, do you guys want this? And now you've got kind of yeses, nos, yes, buts, and it can be a little harder to learn from. So I survey, earlier on, I surveyed with a program called Survey Legend. I think right now it's about $39 a month, but you can also make 5 surveys for free before that 39 even kicks in. So it's not that expensive, and you can cancel anytime. And then now I use something called Typeform, which I think is $99 a month. So, substantially more, but it does allow me to, if a customer answers this question in a certain way, I can give them a different question than if they answer this in a certain way. So you can create logics that can be very helpful when you have more complex questions to ask. But stuff that I ask about is, for an example, so when I first designed the Surface carrying case a couple years ago, I just made it the colors I wanted it to be. So it's this really pretty sand color. It's got black accents, so it's neutral, but it's a little different than just a black carrying case. But at the time, a couple of customers said, "Hey, I kind of wish this was all black." And so I was just about to redesign an all black, second version. And then I went, you know what? Is this just 3 people who really want this carrying case? Or is this actually a sentiment of more of our customers? So I actually think that might have been one of my first surveys ever. And so I asked the group and posted the survey to the Facebook group. And overwhelmingly, people did not want it to be black. They were like, "This is a little off brand," and and because we ask for their candid feedback. You get candid feedback if you ask for it. So people were like, "This is off brand for you, Mandy. I don't think this is a good idea," and and they were right. So I didn't make it. So I saved myself all of the design fees. I could be sitting on a thousand things people don't want right now with 3 people who it was right for. Um, so yeah, and so we've done that where it's just plain a yes or a no answer kind of thing. But then I also do it for new products like, hey, here's my initial design scheme. It could even be a drawing. What do you guys think of this? And people will be like, oh, I love it, but I'd rather it smaller, or I wish it had wheels or something like that. And you can learn from that whether your initial thing is worth launching or not. And then sometimes you even, yeah, you just go, no, just plain no. I can't give you what you want feasibly from a business standpoint. And so it's not something that I can do. And it's sad when that happens, but it's a heck of a lot better than sitting on inventory you can't move.
It is, and it allows you to let your customers know, I hear you, I care
Yes,
about you, I'm listening
absolutely.
to you.
Hmm.
And I think about people who have these kinds of products or services that they offer, that are seen with our customers. And there's obviously that age-old quote of people won't care until they know how much you care. And so you're sharing with them that you're not just interested in them for their purchases, but you want to make sure that
Right.
they are able to use it efficiently, that they are able to get, um, you know, uh, feel good about their purchases. And
Hmm.
another thing that Mandy does, which I know a lot of people watching here do as well, she spends a lot of time on her social aspect. So not so much. I mean, she does the replica services on Instagram and Facebook. But what I've seen you do a lot of time with is your YouTube channel,
Hmm.
where there are so many resources on there for your customers. And so tell me about is how you figured out that spending your time there was a good idea. How
Hmm.
did you measure that? How would you suggest a business owner looks into their various platforms to figure out what's working for them?
So a way that I tend to think about how I spend my time is I make sure that I'm spending at least, this is rough, but about 50% of my time doing things that I give to customers for free. So content, and engagement and all of that, because that is truly the only thing that's going to set you apart from your competitors for the most part. I mean, without giving people more than just a product. I mean, we'd be a very good surface. It's a great surface, but it's still, at that point, it's still a product. It's still not that exciting. So I started off with a couple YouTube videos here and there just to kind of test the waters. And the response that I got through comments and what people were telling me on the group was that, you know, I have teaching skills. It's something that I pride myself on. It's something that I absolutely love doing, and that that they were learning so much from me. And when I started to hear that come, I mean, that's a pretty great motivation to keep doing it. And so I leaned into it more. I basically, all of the tips that I was kind of sharing casually on Instagram that were getting the best responses, I turned into more fully fledged videos. And so then I got this nice, maybe I had 20 or so videos there, and I was like, okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to take a step back. You know, I'm spending a lot of time on this. I'll step back. And every time I step back, I can see it in the sales. I can see it that they aren't quite what they were. I can see it in the engagement. It's not quite what it was. And so it becomes, and it takes a while to kind of see that. But when you go, what am I doing differently? You go, you know what? I'm not engaging as much as I was. I'm not giving of myself for free as much as I was. I'm thinking too much about product and not enough about community and content. And so yeah, that. And then I'm full in it. I'm doing a whole new YouTube series now. It's not just about teaching photography and content creation. It's now it's called Blank the Builder, because you fill your own name into the blank. And I'm teaching business strategy. So it's basically a more formal version of what we're talking about right now from somebody who's only, you know, 2 steps ahead of you in business, or maybe a similar level, but a slightly different industry, hoping that, you know, we can all raise each other up in business.
Yeah, but honestly, that is the best mentor for someone to have, is somebody who is
Absolutely,
you know, 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. Because if you're
100%.
too far ahead of you, then it's completely out of touch.
Completely
And
agree.
you are at that point where you are scaling. It seems to, at least to the outside world, seem to be scaling quite rapidly. You're now shipping internationally. You you are leading the market in lots of designs, and you're also having to unfortunately deal with counterfeiters and people who
Sure,
are,
yeah.
people who are ripping on. I know we have people on this call that have been dealing with the same things. Do you feel
I'm sorry,
comfortable
guys.
sharing that part of what's going on, and how it affects you and how you're trying to combat that?
Yeah, I do. So, I mean, without getting into any specifics, because we all know what this feels like. Yeah, as soon as somebody sees that somebody else looks like they're growing, I mean, that's fertile ground to knock them off, counterfeit, whatever terms you want to use. And it sucks because you're the originator of whatever it is that you did, or a port or a quality of what you do. And to watch somebody just kind of having not an original idea and just they take your copy, they take your website icons, they take your words, they take your designs. It's really frustrating. But what they're copying is the end result. It's not everything that came before it. So they are only looking at, oh, okay, well, Mandy puts out YouTube videos. I'll put out a YouTube video. Okay, but are you really speaking to the right audience? Are you really teaching of the quality that's needed? Do you have the empathy for what the customer needs? And the answer is always going to be no, because they can only be, you know, they're always going to be 6 months to a year behind you, and they can only copy what they see, not the ethos of why you do what you do. And that's what your customers feel, right? They feel the love behind what you created, not the thing that you created. And so your copycats will never, they'll never understand that, and they'll never be able to learn that. So rest assured that as much as it sucks and you hate them, that it's really okay. And the other thing too is, as you go through problems and horrible hurdles that are really stressful at the time, and you solve each of those problems, whether it's production or a marketing issue or whatever, though your copycats are going to have that exact same problem, and they're not as good as you. So they're going to not be able to solve it as well as you can, or in a timely manner either. So every time that you solve a massive problem by creating a system or getting smarter yourself about that issue, you create more of a competitive moat where you know stuff that your competitor is not going to know ever, or at least for a really long time.
That's so true. Frustrating. I don't know. Do you know Jamie Lee Kern Lima? She was the
Not
creator
familiar, no.
of gosh, Sherry. Gosh,
It's
Sherry.
okay.
I'll believe it.
It's okay.
Yeah, but it's a makeup brand, and she went
Okay.
from nothing to she just sold for dollars earlier this year, late last year, somewhere around there. And it's It Cosmetics. That's what she created. It Cosmetics.
Okay. Oh yes, I know it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Jamie Kern Lima, and
Mm-hmm.
in her book, she talked about where her manufacturer of her product that has her designs, NDA, all the things locked down
You're
tight,
kidding me.
sold her formula to
That's
somebody else.
awful. Okay.
And she finally figured out who it was, how it happened, or and said, what am I going to do about this? They're creating a similar product. They're this, and that was pretty much what you just said, which is it's not you. And it's you are succeeding because of you. You're succeeding because of your passion. You're succeeding because of what you believe in. As much as you would love to sue them and take them down and spend all this time and effort, don't even think about them. Let them
Right.
be, keep going on
Exactly.
your path. And she, in her book, she went on to say, sure enough, they had to discontinue the line because that they
Exactly.
couldn't do it because it wasn't them. Couldn't do it
It
because it wasn't.
shows.
Yeah,
It
it
takes
really.
it will take time, and it will take time while you're frustrated. But if it is only copying, it will fail, or it will flounder, plateau while you continue to grow and rise because of exactly what you just said.
So
So
what's
just
your
rest assured, you're not alone.
yeah? And I think that's kind of what I want, and everybody on the call
Right.
to know. You're not alone. People are
And it doesn't
facing
matter
this.
it doesn't matter what size you are either. Like if you look at some of the biggest companies out there, I'm not not that I think any of these companies are better than another one, but if Apple creates something, 5 other companies are going to create the same thing. Like we are all in the exact same situation, no matter what size we are, and it's just something
That's
you got to
very
shrug off and just be your best.
keep going forward. In your
Yeah.
experience as you were building this company, did you have a specific focus on marketing, or is that something that just kind of came about organically for you?
So I think that it comes from. So no, not at all. I have no marketing background, no marketing courses or training or anything like that. As I said, I was an actor and a doctor, so you don't do any marketing. But but I think what I've always really tried to keep on the top of my mind for everything that I do is empathy for the customer. And so that's like at every step of the way. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything that a customer asks for or wants. That has to be a business decision as well. But an empathy for decreasing the pain in their life and increasing the joy at every step of what you provide. So with our products, I mean, the whole ethos of the product is make your photo life easier, which makes your business life easier, which makes your outside of business life easier. So the products themselves, the surfaces and the stand, the Replica Studio, it's all supposed to make your photography process easier. But you can't just stop there. I then created all of the content, and by teaching people how to do it, I've given you a second tool to make things easier. And then outside of that, making your website easier. So how can I make the website both easy to use and intuitive and kind of fun? So if you go to the Replica website, we have something called bundles, and it's how you can create your own bundle of a couple surfaces that would look best for your brand or for your style. And we've made it kind of feel like a game. It's really fun. You can add them and they pop in, and then you can remove them and they pop out, and it's kind of joyful along the way. As well as that, we have a chat box. So if you have any questions, you can ask a real live person and they're right there to answer it right away. So you're not confused. You're not waiting for emails to come back. And actually, just on the topic of a website, if you're ever wondering, is your website easy and fun and intuitive? You can do one of two things. You can either ask a friend who may not have grown up with the internet, so they may not be the most tech savvy, can you get to checkout? Or what, are you confused in any way? Or if you don't know anyone, you can give a friend 2 drinks and ask them at the bar. So, and then, so not completely obliterated, but 2 drinks in, you're not quite as
I
who you were
volunteer.
without it. Right, perfect. So next time
Anybody watching, hit me up. I'm
you.
in.
Yeah, awesome. I'll send you a drizzly order, and then we'll get your feedback. But yeah, so ask someone who's not tech savvy or who's just a little drunk, and then you'll know if your website works. But then after that, we after your order ships, we send you emails all along the way. Oh, it's being packed. Oh, it's out for delivery, so that it feels like if you were wondering, don't wonder anymore. We've got you. So to just try to decrease the stress and the difficulty of every one of those touch points, your customers will have a joyful experience and a painless experience. If they ever have an issue and they need to email customer service, we are very strict is the wrong word, but we really watch and we're careful about our KPIs, like our key performance indicators of first ticket or first response time. So we try to respond within an hour, if not a half hour, if we can, to your inquiry, if it's within business hours. We want to close every ticket within like 2 hours. So if you have a kind of a back and forth, we want that back and forth to end in a short period of time. So just things like that, thinking about where could a customer become irritated or stressed out? Where can I turn it into joy? And I think that leads into, right, and because that leads into all aspects of marketing too. Like, so with marketing, and when we talk to people, I try to use a very casual voice. I want it to feel as much like we're chatting as possible. So it's okay to incorporate slang and too many exclamation points. And it's just what do I feel would be joyful and exciting? It can be a little hard to get excited about stuff as adults, the same way that we could as kids. So if I can imbue that into any portion of our marketing materials, of our limited release drops, of your website experience, I try to do that. And so it's more of just trial and error, honestly, Sherry, just trying something that I think might feel good and then seeing if it does.
Yeah. So as you've talked, you've started to mention various branches of, I'm going to assume that when you did your Kickstarter, it was just you.
Mm-hmm.
At
Yes.
what point did you determine I need help? And then how did you go
Great
about
question.
deciding which was the next part of this business that you needed to fill? How did you go about doing it? What kind of just investment in people as well as the business are you continuing to make so that you're growing?
That's an awesome question. So the first thing that I think for me, and I think for many of us, this first position you need to fill is customer service. So in the beginning, and I should say it's me and it's my husband. So he is responsible for some of the behind the scenes logistical stuff, making sure that the product is being made to quality, it's getting to the manufacturer, website tweaks that kind of optimize people getting to checkout. So the less sexy stuff than the fun stuff that I get to take care of. But so there's 2 of us. And then he just doesn't like to be on camera. And then we realized very quickly that customer service is something that needs to be done by a dedicated person who can also remove you from it a little bit. I'm sure that everyone here has received those emails from customers that absolutely break your heart because they are disappointed about something, whether it was shipping or the product itself. And it really, really brings you down because you want nothing more than to be perfect for everybody. But of course we can't. And so I think it's really important to do your own customer service for the first couple of months. You understand any issues that could be arising, because when you launch a product or a service, you cannot know what problems are going to occur. You truly have to launch with just your best foot forward and then wait and see what happens and make changes. Be nimble enough and responsive to change when needed, but you can't know. So, I guess as an example, when we first started shipping, shipping is not always done delicately. And we were finding that up to 3% of our surfaces we were sending out were getting damaged in shipping, which is completely unacceptable. It's a horrible experience for the customer. It's costly for us. And so very quickly we revamped our shipping box, completely redesigned it, custom designed it, and now, you know, we have like less than 0.1% or something. And when they do happen, it's because it was like bent into a V, which no box is going to protect you against anyway. So I can't. But I needed to know that. So to do your customer service in the beginning, very important. But then you're going to find that it is going to, as you grow, is going to become a very large part of your time expenditure on the business. And it's something that no longer requires the expertise of the owner, you, to do. It just requires somebody with compassion and who can have as close of an empathy as you do. So customer service was the first thing we hired. And to keep it really lean, we hired a virtual assistant. So there's a lot of virtual assistant companies. I think we used something called Zirtual, and it's relatively inexpensive. And the great thing is that if it doesn't work out with a given agent, you can find somebody else without going through the whole hiring process before you figure that out. I would actually, the company we use now, and I love it, is called Work. It's WRRK. And they are a customer service agency where you will get a dedicated agent for your account. But again, if anything ever happens where they're not a good fit or they're ill, they also have somebody trained up who can take their place as well. So it's a really, really nice way to, you know, without having to really get into the whole employee hiring environment, to at least try that, hiring that position out to somebody who isn't you.
Is that who you have your customer service issues, or do they handle other tasks,
So they handle completely customer service. So for us, we actually first, the virtual assistant that we hired was so fabulous, and she was actually already leaving that company. So we did hire her on. So if anyone's ever messaged with Liz, she was our first ever customer service agent and our first W-2 employee. So she's been with Replica since day one and will be with us forever. And so she was initially customer service, and then when it again the volume grew and she grew in her talents, she's risen to be also our collaborations coordinator, and she's our customer service manager. And so she basically manages the agent that works with this work company. And so it's really, that's also been incredibly rewarding because she started in one place and we've been able to move her up the company as she's just demonstrated her excellence in everything.
So how did you make the decision? And I'm again thinking about all the people watching who are small business owners who are trying to grow. How did you make the decision that, okay, it's time to do this? And how did you fund it? Or did you just say, I'm just going to take this on with faith?
So I think I probably threw my hands up in the air at 11 p.m. going, I can't keep doing customer service at 11 p.m. Because at the time I was still working my 9-to-5 job. So I was still working as a doctor when I started Replica and was doing this in all my off hours. And so I think it was just at a point where I went, this is taking way too much of my time. I'm not focusing on content. I'm not focusing on growth. And it's really hurting my soul to keep hearing, people who may be upset about one thing or another. I think it would be beneficial to just, put that barrier in and free myself up for hours a day. And then in terms of funding, so as I mentioned, because I started with that virtual assistant company, it's really nice in that if you only need somebody for 2 hours a day, you can hire them for 2 hours a day, so that they can grow with you. And then once your needs start to meet a true part-time or a true full-time, you can move to another agency such as Work, or hire that full-time W-2 employee once your needs are there. So one thing that we've always been really cognizant of at Replica is that you don't always need a full-time employee right away. Sometimes you just need to be relieved of a couple hours of a task. And that's where independent contractors and freelancers are such wonderful resources for a small business, in that if you need them more, you turn up your needs more, and if you need them a little less, you give them notice because you're a good person, and then you can turn down your needs. And so that's really valuable in the early stages.
Wonderful. One last question for me before we're going to open it up to questions. But how do you use your marketing prowess and this community that you've built to not only stay relevant, but stay ahead of the curve?
How do you to stay ahead of
Right.
competitors, or what do you?
Just to stay ahead so that you are there in the front leading versus playing catch up.
Mm,
Like how do you get your inspiration? How do you
good
know
question.
that you're on
Okay,
the right path? You're on the right path.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, that is a really good question. So, um, so in the beginning, I think the thing I can speak to most is the designs of our surfaces. And so in the beginning, I came out with the stuff that was the most uh, used, like the classics, the stuff that was trending on Instagram, the white marbles, the subway tiles, all of that kind of stuff. That's just the heavy hitters that everybody needs to have in their collection. But as we went on, customers started asking for more unique things that I'd never seen before. Or I started to get ideas. Can I come out with something that nobody's ever seen before and that can still sell because it's so interesting? And so I basically put my horse blinders on to what competitors are doing, or what else is happening. And I just think, do I want to see it? Would I want to see it as a photographer and a business owner? I listen to what my customers are asking for. And they know, as Sherry mentioned, that if they say, hey, could you do this, but in this form, that I'm listening. And then if I love the idea, I'll do it. And so, and then I also survey customers to say, hey, what do you want to see? And so by really listening to what your customers are asking for, you're going to hear before any competitor is going to hear, because you're the one who's in tune with your customer base and your audience. They are not, they're just copying you. And so I think that if that answers your question, I make sure that everything we come out with is something that is brand new, that's not copied off of somebody else. And then, and I do that largely by listening to what customers are asking for.
Customers. I have one more quick question. Because I think
Yes.
something that a lot of business owners struggle with is organization and
Mhm.
housekeeping. What do you find
Yes.
are the best systems that have helped you with this growth, with staying on track and everything like that?
Mhm.
What are the systems that you utilize most?
Totally. So I would say that there are two things. The first thing, and I my very first builder YouTube video is all about that. So I'll give you the very basics of it, but then please go watch the video, subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff that everybody has to say. But so what this system is when I get I have decisions coming my way, or opportunities such as, now I didn't have to do this for you asking me, but maybe Chef Sherry asking me to come on this interview. Maybe that's something I didn't know if I wanted to do. So I would then give it a price score. And price is an acronym that stands for the price of something, the risk of doing that thing, the impact, the confidence that I have that it'll actually work, and the ease of doing it. And so for any decision, I give each of those things a score from 1 to 5, with 1 being bad and 5 being amazing. And then I take a look at, and I do that for a couple different things. And then that helps me to decide, is this something that I should actually pursue for Replica? And if it is, how should I prioritize those things? So the higher scores get the priority. And so for something like this is free, so it gets a 5. The risk is pretty low, unless Sherry were to ask me an out of the blue question that embarrassed me terribly in front of all of you guys. I didn't think that would happen. So I don't know, maybe that's a 4 in that off chance. And then let's see, the impact, well, it depends on how many people are here, but it doesn't really, but because I want to do this kind of thing, it doesn't really matter how big the audience is. So I don't know, a 3 or a 4, you guys get to meet me and meet Replica, and maybe this is something you want to be a part of. And then the confidence that this will work and that I won't embarrass myself is pretty high. So I'll give that a 4 or a 5. And then the ease of doing this, well, I had to do my hair and turn on my computer. So I would say that the ease is a 5 as well. So this becomes a no-brainer for that kind of example. And I go into a lot more detail in my video about what to do if you give something a 3 and you don't know, or how to make something easier if it seems like it's hard. So definitely check that out. I love that system for rank ordering decisions. And the other thing is I do something called a captain's meeting, which I made up the concept for, but it's something that my husband and I either do on a Sunday afternoon or on a Monday morning. And we basically decide, we go through buckets of all the things that need to be taken care of in business. So it might be like operations and logistics, email marketing, accounting, engagement with the Facebook VIP group, and you have all of the buckets that matter in your business, and you list all of the things that matter, and then you decide, okay, well, is this something that's happening this week or something that's happening next week? And then you make your week up of what we're each doing on the Monday, on the Tuesday, on the Wednesday, and then at the end of every week, you go back through your list and you go, okay, we checked this off, we checked this off. Oh, we had to push this over to here. But it's this way that before you even start your week, you know what you're doing and when you're doing it. And so that price system feeds into that as well, because that's going to influence those priorities. Is it a this week or is it a next week? And if you're a sole proprietor, you can have, rather than a captain S apostrophe meeting, you would just have a captain apostrophe S meeting, and it would be the singular captain's meeting. And it's just a time for you to sit there with your spreadsheet and get yourself organized before you dive into things on Monday morning. So I would say those things have made a massive difference, because as Replica's grown, I have gone through many waves of crazy stresses, as every business owner does. And just plain grounding yourself with taking, an hour for organization, the stress that you will save for that hour spent is invaluable.
Yeah, I love that, because I think so many of us, as we were talking about, we fly by the seat of our pants because we're always working on putting out fires or reacting to somebody needs this, somebody's asked us a question and we feel like we need to get back to them because we got engaged, but then it derails us in the long term. So I want to open up the floor to anybody, a question. If you aren't familiar with it, down below at the bottom of your screen, you can see a button that says reactions. And if you click on that, it has the ability to raise a hand. And if you've got questions, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll call on you. And then we'll just have you unmute yourself. You can stay off camera if you want to. You can come on camera, whatever you'd like. But is there anybody that has a pressing question that they would like to ask?
Hello.
Thank you so much. This is all really good info.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I put in the captain's meeting and price, because that's going to really help kind of frame some stuff for me.
Nice. I'm glad.
Because I'm constantly going through burnout on my end, because,
I hear you.
all of us.
I know. I do know.
Family and all of that on top of running businesses. But my question is more about the virtual assistant. I always am hesitant to kind of use them, because I want to know, I guess, what is like the time commitment to hiring someone and getting them trained into the process and the thought, here's where I always get hung up on it. Like, is it going to take more time and energy and resources to train this person in to do it, or to just do it? If that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And I think that that's one of the hardest things of being a small business owner. You are so good at what you do, and you already know your processes. You know that you can just, okay, I'll just crush through it. I'll just get through it. I'll just do it. And that's one of my biggest weaknesses, is I'll just get through it. It won't take me that long. It's gonna take me longer to teach it. If you don't teach it, you will be doing it forever. That's
true.
the problem. Right? So I completely,
real quick, because that's exactly what I just did. I have a meeting with
all of us
Friday to jump off something that stresses me out, takes too long, and I forget it. I'm going to hire a virtual assistant to do this for me. So I'm meeting her on Friday, because Marie, like you said, we can do it. Do we really want to take the time to teach somebody else?
Yeah.
And I think
so here's what
I just bet this pain point where I went, yeah, it's now time to do this.
Yeah, it's time.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, you kind of have to hit that breaking point. But as a piece of actual practical advice, so are you thinking about it for customer service or for something else?
All of the above sometimes, you know.
Yeah, for sure. No, a good assistant can do more than one thing.
Yeah, on one of them, I'm just thinking databases, right?
Okay.
Just creating contact databases, or just like some sort of like where I can send out emails and stuff like that. That takes a long time to research and collect the information. And so that would be my top of my head example of why I
Okay.
would.
So I think that what I would, I'll give two examples of ways that I have tried to make the teaching process less painful for me so that you can onboard that person easier. So when it comes to customer service, one thing that I had already started doing as I'd been in business for a couple months, and very similar questions would come through, right? I need to make a return. I have a question about XYZ. And so when I would see that a question was always coming up, I would make a macro. And so there's a program called Text Expander. I think it must be inexpensive because I did it in the first like month of business. But
Okay.
you create your own templates, and they can have and then you can fill stuff in along the way. So all you have to do is you get the email and you respond with, I don't know, you could call it .exchange, and you type period exchange, and all of a sudden it inputs all of your text that you've already created. It's all your own verbiage, and then it'll have hypertext. So you can you can say like, hi, name, and then it'll highlight that. And all you have to do is once it's inputted, you can just type the person's name. So you can modify it very easily. But now you've got this beautiful, it's already your own words, but it's just input every single time as a template. And then of course, you just give it that quick once over to make sure that there's no toxic text that's not relevant to their question. And then you send it off. So if you make those for, say, customer service, then you're able to hand those because they're already based on your experience. They're already based on your voice and your company's voice. You can hand those and the keys to the next customer service agent. They will then understand, oh, this is how Marie replies to this kind of question, and this is how our company handles it. And so without creating this entire workbook of like, if this, then this, the macros will actually guide them through the main topics. So that all they have to come to you is they go, hey, I got a weird one, Marie. This is not in the macros. And you'll go, that is a weird one. And then you'll think through it together. And then you'll come up with a solution and verbiage. And then you can even add that as a macro after that. So I created them for me, and I passed them along as my teaching tool. So I think that would help a lot there. And then for the databases, when I have to teach one of our employees or an independent contractor something new that only I know at this moment, I make a Loom. Are you familiar with Loom, the online website?
No.
I think it's free. I think so, or it's very inexpensive, but it's LOOM. And what it allows you to do is make a screen recording that's actually saved onto the Loom like database in the cloud. So you're not sending a physical file to anyone, but you just sign up for your account, and you could then go into your spreadsheet that you're talking about, and you could say, hey, so-and-so, so I'm going to show you now how we're going to do this. We're going to make this database. So the first thing I do is I go up to this column, and it'll show your little face in the corner of the recording, and it'll record your voice. It'll record where your cursor's moving, what you're doing, and you'll create this entire training video that then the link will just be emailed to whoever you email it to. They will just watch it online. And it just serves as this wonderful teaching database without sending these giant files to people.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Right. So then, no problem. Yeah. So the next time you do it yourself, just go, okay, I'm going to take the extra couple minutes. And I'm not just going to do it for myself. I'm going to do a teaching video, and then and then you can send it to whomever needs to receive it after that.
That's perfect. That's a really good idea. Thank you.
No, hey, trust me, these have been cultivated over years of frustration.
Yeah.
Not knowing the best way to do it. So
that video, doing like the video training video, is just so smart. I never even thought about that.
No, for sure. Because if you just do a live thing, yeah, they won't have it recorded and they'll have questions later.
I know I had a part 2. I might have to come back to you because I can't remember what it was. It was virtual assistant. Oh, it came back to me. And maybe this is like just a me thing, but like, again, I know, and I try to give people grace for it, but I know that I could do the work in half the time because I created and all that. Do you find that like they, virtual assistants actually, you mentioned 2 hours of their time, right? Do you think that are you seeing the value in that 2 hours of your time, or are they
I see
just
what you
like
mean.
getting five, we'll just say like 5 people in
Yeah,
your database in 2 hours, you know? Does that make sense?
it completely makes sense. How efficient are they? It's going to depend on the
Yes.
person, like everything else in life. So I've worked with some virtual assistants that they weren't a great fit. That's just humanity. Some people aren't going to be a great fit for your company. They may not have the efficiency that you need, and others absolutely blow me away and are more efficient than I could ever be. So the
Okay.
nice thing is that try it. See if it's a good, see if the first person you get assigned to clicks or not. Also knowing that if you're giving them a bad system, that's on you. It's right. So if you're not
Yeah.
teaching them properly, if you're not giving them all the resources you need, internalize it. That's your fault. Like that's the thing, because now you're going from being a sole proprietor to an actual manager. Whether they're your employees or not, you're managing people, and that is hard, and that's a completely brand new skill, and you're not going to be very good at it at first. But the more that you try to have empathy for them, and the more that you try to give them like really good structure from the beginning, I think, yeah, you will reap the benefits, because you've given them a system that allows them to succeed. That's another thing, is try to think in systems. So if somebody is not giving you what you want, try to like make that your responsibility. Say, okay, it's not my fault they're not succeeding, but it is my responsibility to figure out how to make that happen.
Right.
Try to give them a better system before letting them go, I would say. Now, granted, sometimes it's just not going to work out.
Okay.
But try to take it on yourself first and see how you could do better by them first.
That's really good advice to frame it that way, because I do have a team of people that I work with, that I take that approach with them of like, where can I be a better leader and mentor?
Yeah.
So with a VA, that would be a good place to kind of start too, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. That makes me feel better about getting a VA.
Yeah, no
I'm
problem. No
like
problem. I'm
toying
glad to
with the
help.
idea. Everybody says get one, but I'm like, ugh. But okay.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Question.
Hey, you're so welcome, Marie. Thanks for asking.
Does anybody else have a question for Mandy before we say our goodbyes? Feel free to raise your hand. If not, I will say, Mandy, before we close, can you just let everybody know what is coming up for Replica Surfaces next, as well as what's the best way to contact you, follow you, all of those kinds of things?
Yeah, definitely. So we have our holiday homecoming collection coming this Friday. So starting at 10:30 a.m., we have 4 holiday surfaces that just exude the holidays. They came up for the first time last year, and they're back now for anybody that missed them. So if you take photos of anything that needs like reds, greens, trees, and beautiful twinkly white lights, this collection's for you. You can find our products and also a lot of how-tos and tutorial videos at replicasurfaces.com. I'd also love for you guys to be a member of the Facebook VIP group that we've been talking a lot about. So that's just, go to Facebook, type in Replica Surfaces VIP, and request to join. You're going to get admitted. We just do that so that it makes sure that you're not a bot. And then it's a place where you can share your photos. You can ask questions. We have people of all different skill levels inspiring and helping each other out. It's truly the most positive group I have ever been a part of. We won't allow it to be not positive. The group members won't allow it to be mean in any way, shape, or form. And then we do tons of giveaways, challenges. It's where I survey you guys, see what you want, ask you what you want us to do, and you get to be a part of growing Replica because you are. So yeah, would love for you to join that as well. And I think that's the big stuff.
Mandy, I can't thank you enough for today. It has been so great. It's kind of surreal. I've watched your videos for so
well, I feel the same way. I've seen your sauce photos forever. So your face moving is really fun.
Yeah, agreed. And thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you giving us an hour. We know how important time is to anyone, and especially small business owners. But it's an opportunity to wish you a wonderful week. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on the Facebook group, our Energize Colorado Women in Business group. Reach out to Mandy, and look forward to seeing you guys again at our next speaker series, which will be probably January, I think is our next one. So
Very cool.
thank you very much,
Guys.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.